What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be showing you guys my recap on indices triad. So we're going to start from the higher time frame to lower time frame and kind of give you my perspective on why I was bullish coming into the week. So, okay, cool. So if you look here at the previous week, what did the previous week do? This is what we're always asking ourselves. So if you mark out this range that price retraced into last week, right, on all assets, we see that NQ retraced the deepest within that range, right? But most specifically, we see a reversal sequence that I often mention to you guys. I've even posted this on my Twitter for free for you guys to reference, right? So this is when a leading asset, so NQ is the leading asset towards the downside, right? As you see, it took out the previous week's low a lot sooner than ES. If I go to the daily chart real quick, you're seeing that we hit this low on Tuesday. You see Tuesday did not hit that low, that previous week's low. So if it fails to manipulate, we know that that is a trigger for the lagging asset or the middle asset to catch up, right? And potentially, all assets, right? Now, this is a sequence where as soon as the middle asset trades into that level, the market reverses, right? So this is exactly what it looked like, right? This would be NQ hitting that previous week's low, failing to reverse, or just trading into it, right? And this is what ES would look like, right? So technically there's an SMT there, but this would be NQ trading beyond that level, right? Not manipulating it. This is where ES will actually catch up to that level. As soon as it, hits that level, the market reverses, right? So it's essentially just waiting. NQ is like waiting for the lagging asset to reach that level. It's even higher probability where the third asset in the triad is actually forming an SMT there. So that's exactly what we see with YM, right? YM does not take out the previous week's low, as we can see. And we're going to see a better view on the daily chart. So we had the reversal sequence confirmed by a weekly precision swing point. You see this asset over here is a bearish close. These assets are bullish, and we have an SMT with the previous week's low. So this is a two-stage SMT. It's essentially a two-stage sequential SMT in a way, because this is a quarterly candle as well as an SSMT, right? But we're just going to call it a two-stage SMT for simplicity. So why can we also anticipate higher prices? Well, look at the closure on YM. It fails to manipulate the previous week's high, right? So what does that mean? We just went over it over here, right? The lagging assets, that means the lagging assets, typically it's always going to be ES, majority of the time, can catch up to this high. As you can see, it's opening very close to it anyways, right? So you can expect ideally a weekly open low first and then expansion into the high, right? So dropping down to the daily time frame, here you kind of get a better depiction of that advanced premium discount sequence. While these assets, if you mark out EQ of the pre-6 range, this asset over here is way, way beyond the discount low of this pre-6 low, right? In deep discount. This asset just broke it in deep discount. This asset is in premium of a range in a fair value gap, right? So when we trade into this low, this is obviously a decoupled market, right? You have one asset in deep, deep discount, one asset in EQ of the range, right? But why would we assume bullishness? Well, for one, this sequence, right? But also this asset over here being YM is printing it's not essentially catching up, right? It's just printing a continuation signature, as you can see, right? It's just consolidating, right? So you just have consolidation, a Thursday manipulation, which is a strength switch. Why is this a strength switch? Right? If you look here, you have this asset running out the low, right? While we have that overall higher time frame bullish run, while this asset's being in Q in ES create a higher low. So there's your strength switch SMT. I have this in my video, right? So that forms the low of the week essentially, right? But we know that just because you have a strength switch doesn't mean that these NQ and ES are stronger, right? That's just a trigger for reversal. We're still gonna have a larger expansion on YM. It's closer to the draw liquidity. So we know that's the asset that we want to trade. That's why I traded this day on Friday. This is why I also traded YM, right? In my caption on X, I'm saying that you can anticipate the strength switch, right? In a decoupled market is when you anticipate a strength switch, right? Study that, because that's very important. So that's why I'm anticipating YM to run out these lows. We also just left these equal lows like this. So I'm assuming that it would go and take that out. And then we could potentially reverse, right? So we saw that Friday is when you get this 2-stage SMT here, right? So a lot of people were asking me, like, why do you care about this SMT, right? It's kind of like a failure swing to Wednesday's low. Well, it's because this failure swing on YM is a relevant low, as you see. Thursday's low is a relevant low. So when that gets taken out and we have that reversal signature, you can go study Friday's PA, extremely clean. You can then trust that, right? Basically as like a TJF, which would form a reversal candle essentially. While YM forms an expansion candle, these assets form a reversal candle, right? Kind of coming back into the range. So with that closure on Friday, we create that reversal candle and YM fails to manipulate. So that's when I want to frame ES as a lagging asset to catch up, right? And this is where, again, strength switching comes into play because you can see Tuesday's candle. So between Monday's closure and Thursday's closure, we create a gap. So if we're going to continue this week and we want an open low, high close like that, and then Monday's closure opens low first, right, creating a gap. I mean, this is the only level for price to create the low of the week, right? So that's why in my outlook, if I can find it, this is what I want, right? With Tuesday's closure, I want to see this open low, high close into these highs. All right, so that's what we get. I took a stab at longs yesterday, right? Assuming a reversal candle would form here, right? Because again, the only level to form the reversal from, right? So you can anticipate this forming some sort of reversal candle, right? And I got a break even, then it went to TP. Some bullshit, but it's all good. So with this closure, I can come into the day with a bullish bias to trade into this high, but maybe potentially this high. But you're going to see the way price kind of plays out. You have to kind of TP here. So now let's go to the 4-hour chart and see what we have here. So now we can kind of see the coupling markets again here. So you're seeing while YM was the strongest asset coming into the week, we have YM making the deepest run into the range, right? So what is this? This is a strength switch, right? We're seeing that NQ and ES are actually a little bit stronger to essentially catch up to YM. That's essentially what it is, right? So that's what we have originally, right? And then we see the same thing, right? We're seeing that YM, it's a bit confusing, I'm sure. But we're seeing that YM, right, has this bullish close. You see it's more in like discount of the range. Well, these assets are really close to the high, right? So while these assets are retracing, this asset is expanding. So they're essentially gravitating towards each other, right, to become more correlated, if that makes sense, right? And with this closure, YM close, this really gives it away, right? When YM expands like this, gravitating towards NQ, and then the profile just supports a bearish narrative, right? It's the candle's opening low first, right? We also have this gap. So if you look at my outlook again, I say this is an Asia session. I say that there's 2 hours. Wait, I said that 2 hours left in this 4-hour candle. It's going to create a fair value gap. This will be used to create the low of day to get to the highs. So that's exactly what happens, right? We create this gap. This is what I want the low of day to form from. Whatever reversal signature we get, that's what I want to trade away from, right? So here with this 6 a.m. close, we get a precision swing point, right? Where essentially you have assets expanding in opposite directions, where NQ is expanding lower, YM is expanding higher. This is a lot of times where you can get a 2-stage PSP. So meaning that NQ will take out this candle's low while this asset retraces, right, and stays in premium of this range, right? And that will be the trigger for markets to resync. But I'm going to show you why this asset doesn't actually need to take out this low. We're going to go over that in a minute. But as you see, this is clearly the weakest asset. I mean, disrespecting this fair value gap. These assets are respecting it, right? And you see the closures, right? And as you see, ES a lot of times is that middle asset. You're seeing it pretty much almost every single day. It's a very good tool to utilize, right? So now let's go down to the 30-minute chart. what do we see here? Is a reversal sequence. So for one, I do want to point this out. We did have this 2 a.m. PSP here. So as you see, this candle here is bullish, bullish, bearish. So that very well could have formed a low of day, right? Even put in here. Already we got that PSP from the gap. Now I want to see 6 a.m. continue into these highs, right? Now I just woke up at this time. This is like 7:15 a.m. I just woke up. Didn't even look at the charts really. But if you actually zoom in to this PA, you can see why it failed. That's why we don't pattern trade like anything. So if you actually look at this PA, it's just consolidation really. My dog is sleeping next to me, so he's like dreaming. I'm gonna wake him up. You good, dude? All right. So if you look at this PA here, like it's just consolidation, right? So no wonder that PSP failed and we re-ran the low. So that's no surprise there. And that doesn't invalidate anything. At this point, this is just another reversal sequence. This is SMT breaking. This here was once SMT. Look at this candle here, 8 a.m. We took out this low, right? Traded way beyond it. Where this asset hit this low right here at 9 a.m. So this is the same thing where SMT breaks, but it's not this version here. Dude, my dog tripping. But yeah, this is this sequence here, right? This would be NQ, this is YM. So as soon as YM breaks at SMT, this is when markets reverse. Where are we at? We're like right here. Yeah, we're here. So I want you to look at this two-stage SMT here, PSP. So this candle here at 9:30 is bearish. These assets are closing bullish, right? There's also an SMT with the candle 1 and candle 2, right? That is a two-stage PSP. If you've seen my video that I just released, right, watch that. It'll help you out. Also, why am I framing longs as well? I mean, look at the retracement signature, right? So the previous day expanded into a high, right? Also, we're just leaving these highs, like these equal highs. So again, I would automatically be assuming retracement. But then you get the retracement signature where we're just leaving a bunch of failure swings at the point of retracement. That is a continuation signature, right? So when, I'm just waiting for price to hit a key level and then print some sort of SMT sequence to expand. So for price to go from expansion the previous day, overnight retracement, 9:30 expansion. As simple as that, right? So that's what we get, basically. 9:30 reverses price. This is when I say, looks like this failed. I want 9:30 to reverse from this low, right? Because that's the only place for price to reverse from. We're already in the gap. So if you've seen my driver video, if you're already in a key level at the time the driver hits, but you haven't yet reversed, the driver needs to reverse. So here's 9:30. It immediately expands away. That is a very strong signature, especially when I see YM just expanding there, NQ just retracing, and then you're really seeing that ES is really showing strength too. So that really shows that NQ here is really the liar. It's just fucking capping. But if I go to the 5-minute chart here in a minute, actually we'll go into that next slide. So how can we assume that this low will not get taken? This is kind of important as well for my 10 a.m. entry. Well, when you look within this candle here, let's go to the 15-minute candle. What do we have here? It's a strength switch PSP. So why is this a strength switch PSP? This asset is way in discount below a low. This asset is way in premium above a high. And what do we have here? Is a bullish close, right? So this is a strength switch PSP. So now you can assume that this asset will expand while YM retraces, right? And that is asset synchronization. That's exactly what you see here. Look what happens. It's insane. It's really insane. So this, as you see, it expands to catch up to YM, and this asset consolidates, right? That is asset synchronization. And you're going to see this every day across all markets, across all time frames. Once you understand this, how to actually anticipate strength switching, and it's truly a fucking game changer. It's insane. Anyways, let's get into the entries. So here is 9:30 reversing. So this is my first entry, right? And I can really assume that we're going to form the low of that 6 a.m. candle because there's nothing else to trade into. So I'm basically assuming that we're going to create a 6 a.m. reversal candle. That's pretty much what I'm assuming. And I assume that, this asset here, ES, will also go higher because it's that middle asset. I don't want to really trade this asset. I want to trade that middle asset, right? Because the middle asset can always pretty much catch up. So if I barley play here, so this is my first entry. It's off that CSD. There's your first entry. Targeting this high. Sorry, it's getting a little small here, but my second entry is after 10 a.m. So here's the 10 a.m. open. Remember, at that point, we had that strength switch PSP. We had that two-stage PSP at the lows as well. Just a lot of confirmations. And then we see that the strength switching. We see that NQ starts to expand while ES just consolidates. Right? That is asset synchronization. That confirms that we are going to get into this high, right? The intraday highs. We are going to get there. That literally confirms it. Like, I don't do anything special. I just know when to expect these sequences. Once I see certain things, it gives me all the confidence in the world. It literally tells you that it's going to go there. Like, literally. It's insane. But what we have here, right, is just a re-entry. Essentially, it's just GXT, right? This 4-hour candle, the previous 4-hour candle reversed. 10 a.m. candle is opening up within a swing point. I mean, that's just classic GXT, right? With context, of course. So that's just my re-entry. So now I have an entry here and an entry here. So if you know how to trade, Tradevate and futures, it's not like MT5 where you have an entry here and an entry here. It's not like that, right? My entry is actually now like here, basically. Okay, so this is my break-even point, basically. Right, so as you see, price came all the way back to this entry, but that's not where that's not where my position is like open at anymore. It's here because of my lower entry. Kind of hard to explain, but if you trade futures, you know what I'm talking about. So I was willing to let this, like, all this money come back to me. I was willing because to me, this makes no sense to reverse. Like, it literally makes no sense. Prices, again, leaving these equal highs, it doesn't really make sense for price to reverse at this point. And when price does that, when price leaves like equal highs and equal lows, it typically just a retracement, and we know this. The profile supports bullishness. The 930 driver is expanded away. So I'm assuming this is a retracement. So if it's going to come back or reverse all the way to these lows, that's just stuff I can't anticipate, and that's what I'm going to live with majority of the time. So I'm just taking break even. At that point, I'm honestly just accepting the loss, or not the loss, but the break even, because that came really close to my entry. So that was kind of scary a little bit. But I wasn't surprised that it held because, again, like, look at this bullshit. Like, equal highs, what caps off this retracement is this fair value gap. It's just like this, guys. It's the same thing. We're coming into the day with equal highs. Price leaves these equal highs for a momentarily. What do you think it's going to be? A retracement. It's likely a retracement. And as we see, what can cap off that retracement is a fair value gap or a key level in SMT. So we know we had the PSP, that's the SMT, the two-stage PSP, etc. We can expand the same thing here. What caps off this retracement? And here's earnings, by the way. What caps off this retracement is a fair value gap and an SMT. What is the SMT with? Sequential 90-minute SMT here. Right, so this is a two-stage sequential SMT. Why is it a two-stage? Because you have an SMT between these candles, highs and lows. Like this. Is it also an SMT fill? YM leaves this gap open. But essentially, this asset is bullish. This asset, this is bearish. This asset's bullish, right? So what does the next candle do? It just expands, right? So essentially just sequential SMT, right? Once you form that SMT, you form a gap. Once you form that gap, that displacement away, it's like that confirms the reversal. And once you put in a reversal, we have to go somewhere, always, and that somewhere is the draw liquidity. So at that point, I just moved my stop loss here. I'm very, very confident once this gap prints that we will go there. And yeah, that's my trade. And yeah, damn, look at earnings, huh? That's crazy. Yeah, I don't trade earnings, but yeah, so we'll see this daily closure here, and we'll see if we can, did we draw into the high at least? Okay, we're leaving these highs, interesting. Yeah, we'll see with the daily close if we can still draw into these highs tomorrow. we'll see the profile and whatnot. But hopefully you guys learned something. That is my breakdown. A little bit everywhere, but that's just how it is. A lot of moving parts, a little hard to explain, but hopefully I did it as good as possible there. But y'all have a good day. Hopefully you learned something, and good luck trading.